Our first paper this morning, of course, we're looking around Africa. We're looking at Lagos, Nigeria. We're looking at Zimbabwe, Zambia. And, it's exciting to see what's happening in the different parts of the continent. So let's take a look at our first newspaper this morning.
We will be starting with the Daily Trust newspapers and seeing what big stories that we can find over there. It says there, Democracy Day, Nigerians seek more dividends. We must get it right in 2023, say governors. Don't use religion, ethnicity for campaign. CDD tells politicians. Abiodun Fintiri free 46 inmates. And also more hardship for Nigerians over rising inflation, power cuts, fuel, food shortages, and others, says the World Bank. And of course, if you live in Lagos or anywhere in Nigeria, you must have also been feeling the nationwide outage. It says nationwide outage as electricity grid collapses or crashes to zero. It was one of the things that was also put out yesterday by the EKEDC saying, one of the other papers saying the national grid has collapsed for the 17th time in 2022.
I thought it would be like the 2000th time because it's almost like it's a normal thing. Oh, the national grid has collapsed. National grid has collapsed.
I think our national grid doesn't like stress.
What is collapsing the national grid? Can we get to the root cause of what is causing the collapse? And can we prevent further collapses? What have we learned from the past 17 collapses that can help us prevent an 18th collapse?
All right, still on the Daily Trust newspapers. Many killed, houses razed in Benue attacks. And also bandits abduct 50 wedding guests in Zamfara. Remember, one of the things we spoke about earlier was 11, out of the more than 60 passengers that have been, that were kidnapped in the Abuja-Kaduna train have been set free. But another 50 were kidnapped in Zamfara at a wedding. DIG, 4 AIGs, 3 CPs and others for Ekiti governorship election. And also terrorists killed 55 ironmongers in Borno in 3 weeks, says the police. How we thwarted plans to bomb Abuja and Kano, says a defense chief, and also mixed reactions as our indigene links attack to missed targets. These are some of the major stories that we can find on the Daily Trust newspapers this morning.
All right, that's all on the Daily Trust, but still looking here in Nigeria, let's come to First News. On the front page of First newspaper, war in Akwa Ibom as Akpabio ex-DIG fight over senatorial tickets. We moved from the presidential campaign ticket fights, now it's senatorial tickets. Akwa Ibom says, I'll never hand over my ticket to former Niger Delta minister. Akpabio says, stop spreading falsehood about your non-existent ticket. Akwa Ibom we know, Akpabio we know not, says INEC. I guess at the end of the day, when there are multitude of councils, the word of INEC will prevail. LSPHCB kicks off 3-week vaccination against measles for June 27th. 2023, Labour Party already has votes of 100 million Nigerian, says Peter Obi. He says we're sure of winning poll. It's interesting to see how the Labour Party has become indeed looking like the third force, and we cannot deny the organic growth of Peter Obi's campaign.
And I think it's also very exciting to see the difference between a third force that rose in 2015, the difference between another third force that rose in 2019. If you remember, there was the Kingsley Moghalus, the Obi Ezekwesilis and the likes, Patu Tomi and some other persons, that seemingly started up a third force. But the energy, difference between that in 2019 and the one in 2022 are very, very different. This feels like a more organic and more supported third force. 2019's third force didn't seem like it had a lot of support from the people.
I guess people have gotten to a point where they're frustrated, they're exhausted, and people want an actual change, something that's different from the normal. It said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting results. But it will be, of course, following up with the details of that story to see how it plays out. This is not the first time we've seen youth throw themselves behind politics. I mean, by 2023, it will be 30 years since the 1993 elections that has made June 12 our official Democracy Day. Let's move on to more stories here on the front page of First News. How military thwarted terrorist attacks on Abuja, Kano, says CDS. That's some good news. Nigeria in blackout as electricity grid crashes to zero. I'll come back to the bottom stories, but let's take the one at the top Only Tinubu can free Nigeria from cabal, says Kokori, as APC presidential candidate urges Nigerians not to lose faith, peace, prosperity shall outlast violence, poverty, etc. The details of that story is there. Now, this is an interesting one, and I'll take that as my final story here. Burna Boy, IGP directs Lagos CP to investigate nightclub shooting. And, you know, I would have loved to talk about the story, but I think we're going to be looking into it in detail when Bolanle Babalola comes to join us for entertainment. Democracy Day leaders must be servants, Ziri says, calls for PVC registration and collection. And the final story, how more Nigerians will fall into extreme poverty. World Bank predicts. That's scary.
Really scary. And, you know, if you look at the numbers currently with regards to poverty across the country, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be improving. Instead, you know, the predictions, are saying that it's going to be worse. It's really, really frightening. And that's why a lot of people have this much energy with regards to next general elections. It's no longer, business as usual like it used to be in the past. You know, now elections are almost like literally a do or die affair, or life or death, conversations basically. Let's move away from Nigeria and go to Kenya and see what we can find over there on the Daily Nation. A big one on the screen there says, Decision 2022, Uhuru allies to bitter foes. Loyalty test, Kenyatta's endorsement of Odinga over Ruto has cost him several key allies, raising the question of whether they are disloyal or simply fulfilling his unwritten promise to back the DP at the end of his final term. Now, this is a very, very common situation, with another, situation in Nigeria where, there's agreements, that if you support this candidate in so and so time, a couple of years later, we will support you. It's our turn. And that seems to be what is happening in Kenya also. There seems to be an emulocon situation in Kenya also.
Was it an attempt to speak Yoruba?
Yes.
Wow, that
I
was a failed attempt. Don't try this again.
Emulocon. Did I say? Oh, Lord.
Don't ever try that.
I'm sorry. All right. Let's see what else is on the Daily Nation this morning. Imbu's Robin Hood, a murdered businessman led a double life. And also relief as KNEC pays exam officials 684 million Kenyan shillings. Agency clears allowances of over 80,000 staff. Kenya misses COVID-19 vaccination targets. It says it's still far from attaining the World Health Organization vaccination target of 70% by the mid of this year. We can also find here, Chebukati responds to ralliers' queries on August election.